welcome to the call. This is Andy Morbitzer at Atlas Forge. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about cryptocurrency. I'm going to kind of sprinkle in some of the other real property assets that we had. Since it's end of year, I'm going to briefly go over some of the real property appreciation. So to get started, cryptocurrency, we will get started here. Cryptocurrency really came about in my eyes because of two things. Really, we had an internet that really expanded communication and made a world a very small place, meaning you can talk in multiple languages, multiple platforms. Something that would go along with the internet would be, of course, a money or a currency or a payment plan. And really that's where cryptocurrency filled that void. It was faster, cheaper than the current system that we had. And then it had the great value of, you could own, maintain, and control your own money. So it was really brought forth in the age of computers and the internet, but also because of trust. And so many times we see, there isn't a headline news that doesn't go by on a weekly basis of some type of fraud or accounts or hacking or some sort of skullduggery in the current banking system. And then, of course, no third-party permission. And that's where it really gets exciting, is you can send money around the world without permission. And that's freedom in a nutshell. So you own, maintain it, control it. You have the freedom. And some of the cryptocurrency are truly anonymous. So we'll talk about more on that in the coming weeks. But we love it because you can keep the money discreetly. It's another asset. It's another spoke on the wheel. We believe in diversification and multiple core competencies. We offer, gold and silver, which, by the way, over the last year, up about 10%. We, if you will, ratio trade. We look specifically at how many ounces of silver can you get for an ounce of gold, and there's certain criteria that perform very well, gold and or silver, depending upon the ratio. So we trade in that capacity, and that was up for the year. 2018 was a great year for something that was supposed to hedge, insure, and protect. Well, it actually made us some money. So we're happy about that. Okay. Cryptocurrency, one of the main reasons I believe it's going to be around is because there's a lot of money to be made. And when I say that, there's a lot of money to be made by people that help facilitate the movement, the infrastructure. There's already been millions upon millions of dollars invested in the infrastructure. Most people recognize that the current system in which we operate is dysfunctional. It's at best insolvent, meaning bankrupt. With cryptocurrency, we can really curtail the effects of inflation, because most algorithms of cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin, for example, there's a set number of coins that are going to be distributed. So that eliminates the ability for governments to, under the current system, just print money at whim, devaluating the currency. So that's very dangerous. They use that as a financial tool. So we've printed so much money, and there's so much debt in the world, all-time high, by the way. That's why you see all these countries that have leadership that are not in the best interest of the people, i.e., most recently Venezuela. I think the last slide you'll see here, it's up like 1,700% new accounts with cryptocurrency in Venezuela. Why? Because the current system failed the people, and that's huge. So when we talk about owning, maintaining, controlling, you'll see more of this in the decades to come. Assets being squeezed, revalued, stock market, in my opinion, very, very dangerous right now. So cryptocurrency has really filled a massive void in the global economy. And the benefits are just simply too great from every aspect. So that you can just about bet that 2019, I'm going on record saying you'll see the very first institutional investors, these ETFs, and slowly but surely they'll get approved one by one. And I'll share my thoughts on that in a future call, because that can be good and that can be bad. It's great for linear thinking in the price of Bitcoin, but on the other side, it can be very damaging because of the control. And anytime you have one entity that controls a massive amount of any said asset, that can be dangerous. So we'll get into those types of talks here in the very near future. In the meanwhile, I hope that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency slowly but surely reach new highs. But Hopefully the volatility is at bay where, over the last year, about 80% of the value of Bitcoin has been reduced. So those who followed our teachings and got into diversification with multiple other assets around the world, I'll share those numbers here later in the call, but we did very well. Not only did we make money in a declining market in cryptocurrency through mining, masternodes, education, those types of things, the returns on those assets are phenomenal. If I told you what they were, you wouldn't believe me anyway. So, but certainly reach out to Andy at atlasforge.com. Hit me with an email. I'll share those numbers with you and what we're doing in the cryptocurrency space with not just, trading on a daily basis, but good long-term, what I think are prudent ways to increase the value of your cryptocurrency holdings. So we'll get into that. The appeal of cryptocurrency, and these are really reasons. These, I came up with, 10 or 15 different reasons why I believe cryptocurrency will be here for the long haul. They've grown from being a novelty, a gaming token, to possibly one of the most disruptive forces on earth. And it ranks right up there with the telephone, the steam engine, all these innovations and inventions of the world that made our standard of living quite nice over my last 53 years. The same thing's going to happen here with blockchain and cryptocurrency. It will literally change the world because of its functionality. Now that we're through the idea that the RNA, the testing, the betas, the improvements, all the coins that have now surfaced that have utility, everybody wants them. Investors are hungry for healthy returns. So, and the investors, these professional investors, they know that the stock market and the paper assets are highly risky. They're very wary of pricey stocks, and they pile into cryptos, and the capital flight, meaning the movement of money from, typically what everybody would invest in, is now moving towards more tangible assets, real property, strategic metals, gold, silver, whiskeys, wines, diamonds, cryptocurrency. It's on the move. You see it happening throughout the world. So not only investors they're knowledgeable about this, they see the value. I think the whole world finally is starting to understand the value of cryptocurrency, especially those that are unbanked. You got to remember, half the world's population have no access to capitalism or a bank account or the internet. So technology is changing all that. We're going to add 3 billion more people into the daily use of money, and that'll be facilitated by the use of cryptocurrency and blockchain. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of time now. People that are, anarchists and privacy buffs, they love all the ability to really be anonymous in transactions. A lot of people that are wealthy that don't trust the banks and current financial vehicles, why, of course, they love storing their wealth online because they control it. It's close enough, but far enough that, greedy hands like the federal governments around the world can't get it. That's why it was so popular, over the last 6 months in Venezuela and Greece and Spain, and you're starting to see it pop up everywhere. But, that's not just here in the United States, that's worldwide. So it's something to think about. So you've got really control, ownership, privacy. Now look at security. Banks are being hacked at an alarming rate. And the more money you make, security becomes, a real big deal. And that's personally, privately, professionally. That's got to do with, tax structure, diversification, having multiple assets in multiple jurisdictions. So security becomes a big deal. And one of those ways to combat that is having cryptocurrencies, mostly because, especially people on fixed incomes, as your declining dollars lose value to inflation, why, of course, cryptocurrencies are true supply and demand. So stocks are risky, bonds are risky. So we're all looking for that place of equilibrium, of freedom, of the ability to be in a safe place. Like I always say, we hedge, we protect, but we want to invest from a position of strength. And that's what real property gives you. That ability to own, maintain, and control your own money is huge. Because believe me, the next decade or two are going to be, you're going to see some wild laws pass, some changes, and it's not going to be in your favor. So we look at diversification. We look at Cryptocurrency is one of those spokes on the wheel that is weightless. You don't need like a vault. It's not physical like you would carry around gold in your pocket, or have to declare it at the border when you go traveling or something of those things. If you have access to the internet, then you have access to your Bitcoin holdings. So no matter where you are. So that's one of the most beautiful things. And we get into a little bit more training on wallets and movements of money and what's the best place to store your cryptocurrencies. It's certainly not on the exchanges and the wallets. You need to understand what cold storage is and how to go about setting that up so your cryptocurrency or your quote unquote money is not online. You still own, maintain, and control it, but you'd only bring it online as to trade and or liquidate. So it's really weightless. It's stored internally on the blockchain. So as long as you have internet, you should be good to go. It has tenure now. I mean, Bitcoin's been around now for 10 years. So the darn thing simply won't die. And we've seen hacks and splits and thefts and problems on the exchanges, everything that you could imagine, but yet it's still here. And why is that? The why is because it has great value and people recognize that. Are there some issues with it? Yes. Have they been resolved? The majority of it, yes. But a lot of people are trying to take old models of trading and Forex and applying it to cryptocurrency and using the same methods, and it simply doesn't work. It's really cryptocurrency is really a new asset class, and you're seeing that through laws. You're seeing that that's what establishes the legitimacy. Now, some will say that true legitimacy or true cryptocurrency should never be on a centralized exchange, and I agree with that to some point, but we're trying to look at it as an investment class, as where can we put our money that's safe, where we can get a modest returns for a modest day's work. Whenever you have technology that's so life-changing as blockchain and cryptocurrency, then you probably need to get a bit of it, because longevity proves that payment systems or money, their longevity isn't a fad. You look at all the payment processing or things of value in the past. I don't care if it was spice, cattle, farm animals, gold, silver, strategic metals, credit cards, debit cards, kiosks, cryptocurrency, diamonds. All of these monies of the past are still in existence today. So cryptocurrency, in my mind, is here to stay. And it's exciting, it's life-changing, and there's many, many ways to profit from it. It's been deemed as real property, and real property appreciates. And our appreciation in 2018, even though the value of Bitcoin dropped, 75%, 80%, we still made out phenomenally. I wouldn't have changed a thing. And quite honestly, for the livelihood and the continued success of Bitcoin, we needed to have a sell-off like this. It's healthy for the long-term success of Bitcoin. Now, how do you make money, or how do you appreciate your asset? Those are all things we teach here at Atlas Forge. So tune in. We're going to get into the details of some of that in some very near future calls here, starting at the beginning of the year. Some different ways you can get into cryptocurrency, position yourself to take full advantage of appreciation. Now, nothing's guaranteed. I'll make the disclosure. But as I look through our assets, we can document great returns and great appreciation in cryptocurrency through 2018. We can show great appreciation in rare whiskeys that are up like 300%, rare colored diamonds. We look at our strategic metals holdings, and we offer 6 of them with Atlas Forge. And let's say you bought all 6, you'd have an aggregate, if you combined all the averages of the 6 strategic metals that we offer in 2018, you would actually have invested from a position of strength. You would have diversified. You would have had assets abroad, and you would have reaped a gain, real property asset increase of about 35%. Now, when I say that, there's some absolutely phenomenal buys in strategic metals, because we did our research over the last couple of years, and we know what the future holds with electric vehicles and drones and 5G and flat screens and computers and smartphones that we're going to utilize the blockchain on as payment systems. So you're going to have literally hundreds of millions and billions of these products, from cars and drones and computers and smartphones, that are all going to utilize strategic metals. So we have 2 or 3 really great buys, dysprosium oxide and rhenium, that are, in our eyes, we know the supply and demand of these strategic metals, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So without getting off course too much, I still believe cryptocurrency will be the future of money. You see central banks the world over, and mind you, central banks are the competition, if you want to look at it like that. We're all battling over money, and money is the most profitable asset in the world. That's why you have central banks that are so motivated to go get that market share, because at first central banks were not on board with cryptocurrency. And now they see the utility and the use of it, and they see a way that can be profitable. Why, of course, you're seeing central banks, that includes monetary authorities, Singapore, England, China, Canada, the United States. These are huge entities that make up most of the GDPs of the world, that are looking at cryptocurrency as that platform that will help them save, earn, just like it does to us. It helps them as well. So cryptocurrencies, they're going to permanently disrupt traditional currencies, and you're going to want to own some. You're going to have to understand how it works. Just like when you got your first ATM card at the bank, or your first checking account, or your first brokerage account, or whatever it is, you had to learn how it worked. So that's what we offer, some education here in cryptocurrency. By the time this gets mainstream, of course, you'll have missed the boat. So the number one question I get of all time is it too late to make money in cryptocurrency? And the obvious answer to that is no. It's just getting started in every way that you could imagine. You didn't miss anything. We're still heavily backing cryptocurrency. Our companies accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment. That should tell you right there that we're on board with cryptocurrency. We can see the exciting future that it gives all of us. And it's an exciting time in the world of money, because we haven't really had a great change in money. And well, the last Ponzi scheme, current Ponzi scheme here in the United States, has been, it's about 105 years old. It started in 1913, back in the island, Jekyll Island, South Carolina, where, the rich of the day got together and created what we now know as the Federal Reserve. And it is a privately owned corporation. It is not government owned by any means. So now it's our chance, as we the people, to stand up and make a stand for free money, real money, and that's cryptocurrency. So, if you're paranoid, if you're skeptical, it doesn't matter at this point. It's inevitable. It will be mainstay in the next 5 years. So you probably need to just position yourself now, just in case. It can't hurt to have a little exposure. And it certainly can't. It can hurt to have none. While everybody else is making money in cryptocurrency, understanding what the future holds, you're going to be behind and have a huge learning curve, and probably miss out on most of the appreciation. So cryptocurrency is the future of money. And what's going to bring it all together? The missing piece of the puzzle, the one that can calculate and move money instantaneously, is 5G. You saw the first glimpse of it on Jeopardy. That's a game show here in the United States, that they had a computer called Watson. And Watson was one of the very first supercomputers working on quantum mechanics and 5G. And it beat all the opponents. What 5G does is gives the infrastructure for data. And data is the monetary force there. Data is the value. The more data that you can stream faster anywhere in the world is what will be the steam engine of the time. Everything will run on 5G. They've already started building it, as you can see from the chart. We went from 1, 2, 3, 4G, each one of them lasting about, the first one was 20 years, and then the cycle really kind of slowed down. Looks like about every 15 years, new technology comes out. It gets better, faster, stronger. And to really quantify what that means is, you could download a 2-hour movie in 5 seconds with 5G. You can utilize your Bitcoin or your cryptocurrency and buy and sell and trade instantaneously, because confirmations usually take time. That was always one of the problems with cryptocurrency, was the network was too slow. Now the network is going to be 1,000 times faster than what 4G is. So it will confirm transactions and mining and staking and all those things that go with cryptocurrency, buying and selling and buying of goods, where you get automatic confirmations or very, very, very fast confirmation. So 5G changes everything. 5G will be able to bring 3 billion more unbanked people into the ecosystem. Now, 7 billion people, that's the current population, within the next 5 years will all be on 5G. So we look at 5G and we look at investment possibilities. Cryptocurrency comes to mind. Strategic metals. You wouldn't have 5G, you wouldn't have smartphones, you wouldn't have computers, you wouldn't have internet, you wouldn't have Wi-Fi without strategic metals. So you're going to go from 3 billion people to 7 billion people that are going to run on 5G. You're going to need all the infrastructure, all new devices, everything's going to run on 5G, which will dramatically increase the appreciation of the strategic metals. So everything that we've got, from the cryptocurrency, strategic metals, the 5G, the blockchain type, it's all interconnected. You look at solar panels, you look at smart cities, smartphones, everything's going to run on 5G. And for 5G to be possible, it absolutely runs on strategic metals. Remember, the gold miners didn't make the millions. The general stores who sold the picks, the axes, and the shovels made the millions. That's what we are. That's what you can be, as a general store. So we look at population explosion in the Pacific Rim as well. We're going to add another, 3 billion people over the next 15 years. So the next decade or two, we're going to end up with about 10 billion people, all that are going to use electric vehicles, drones, smart cities, smartphones, computers, and it's all going to be tied together by 5G, supported by strategic metals. As an investor, you don't get any better than what it is right now. Your opportunity, the timing, knowing what's coming in the technology field, knowing that blockchain, 5G, and all the supporting devices are going to utilize strategic metals, I think we have a win-win situation. With that said, growing use of Bitcoin in the unbanked, you just got to think of Bitcoin as, if just one country, one Fortune 500 company would solely just use Bitcoin, if you would institutionalize it in such a way where maybe marijuana businesses could use it, any of these things, slowly but surely, the more people that use Bitcoin, the stronger the ecosystem becomes. The volatility that you've seen over the last year was because too many people own too many Bitcoin. And as it finds its utility, it will find its equilibrium, meaning more people come onto the network, more people into the ecosystem, it reduces the volatility. I believe that in 2019, the CME, ETFs, you're going to see some laws, you're going to see some regulations, but you'll see the very first institutional money come into cryptocurrency. Now, one thing I can tell you, a major US bank I've already spoken with, they're beta testing cryptocurrency now. They gave our international companies a look at utilizing their cryptocurrency for international transmittal. And of course, we're not a $1 billion company, thank goodness, but they did approach us to see if we wanted to beta test that. So I guess I would be in the next wave of companies that will try to utilize their blockchain. That's going to help us save money in a timely fashion. No more $50 for a wire in 3 days, 5 days later, you may or may not know whether your recipient got your money or not. We'll be able to do it instantaneously. And I just love that idea. It saves me money. It saves me time. So it's all good. So we talked about ETFs, smart contracts. You'll see as in the coming years where smart contracts will really expand the utility of cryptocurrency. You'll be able to do, because it's always been about trust. You know, I've chased gold deals around the world, and The guy that owns the gold in Africa wants you to pay the money up front, and me saying, well, wait a second, I'm not paying anything up front. It'll be cash on delivery. And there's a great divide there. So big deals are all about trust, and smart contracts eliminate and help procure the ability to transact in a fair and equitable ecosystem. And that's exactly what smart contracts does. So give you an example. If I wanted to buy $1 million worth of gold, and he says, well, pay me the $1 million, I'll send the gold. And I'll say, no, why don't I send you $100,000 and you prove to me that it's on a truck, and I'll release the next $100,000 when it gets to the major port. I'll release another $100,000 when it clears customs. I'll release another $100,000 when it gets to my port of entry, the United States. I'll release another $100,000 when it's confirmed and essayed and verified, and I'll make the last $200,000 payment when I have possession. That's fair and equitable on both sides. So that's really how smart contracts work. The ease and use of Bitcoin, and that's why you're seeing all these altcoins around the world, is people are trying to make it easier, scalable. The original papers, white papers on cryptocurrency, of course, it had some issues with scaling, block size, and the such. And you're seeing a lot of improvements. Think of it like just like any, the first computer that came out was very limited. Here we are, 20 years later, and they damn near run your life. So all about improvement, all about, you could apply that to a car, look at the evolution of the car that, started 100 years ago, or however long it's been, from horse and buggy to car to steam to diesel to big blocks to sports car to, improving technology, always improving, always improving. So these are all good things. It's becoming easier to purchase Bitcoins and liquidate Bitcoins in foreign countries, and not, quite honestly, the places that need it most. And 5G will help a lot of that, because the coverage with 5G is phenomenal. And I stay in touch with technology, and I know the future of communication will be satellite driven. It won't be, and this will take 10 years to come forth, but there won't be a place on the earth that won't have the ability to get to buy and sell. It might not be called the internet. I don't know what they'll call it, but they have the ability now to you can make transactions without even using the internet. That's how far technology's come. It'll give you the ability to have internet anywhere in the world. So you're talking about billions and billions of new users. Technology is coming quick. The technology of the future also uses like radio waves or RF technology that can remotely charge your phone, your computer, your cars. So technology is just parabolic at this point. You're going to see so many crazy new things, from drones to robotics to automation to virtual reality, and it's all going to run on 5G, all run on blockchains. That's the future. You can see by the amount of money invested in these industries where they're going. We go to MIT conventions and we look at the latest new technologies, and it's just an exciting time to be alive. I'll be honest. There's so many opportunities around the world to take advantage of opportunities that simply don't put you in harm's way like typical investing does. And we've made a living doing it over the last, decade now. I walked away from all financial responsibility in the markets, whether it was annuities or insurance or stocks, bonds, derivatives, trading. I hold no license now. I'm a firm believer of real property. It's much less risky than paper assets, and I own, control, and maintain it. And thus we have Atlas Forge. This is why we built the website and the platform in the first place, to give people a fighting chance. So that's what we do. Adoption, huge, slowly but surely, every day. New users, new ways, new utility, new companies. It's just a matter of time now before this finds its place in history as being one of those events that really changed the world. And I firmly believe that. You're seeing more commercial, more transactions, ownership, lower volatility. It's all slowly coming together. So now you need to learn about how do you take some money speculatively and apply it in a real property world to get the maximum appreciation. And once you understand how to do that, the rest is easy. So again, if you have questions, you want more information, if you want a one-on-one, you want to talk, I'm always available. Contact us through support on atlasforge.com if you'd like. By all means, go in and get a yearly subscription to Atlas Forge. We're bringing on vetted, experienced professionals and all the core competence that we offer in Atlas Forge. It is a financial platform that you're not going to learn about in school. This is the other side of money, the true, real money, not a manipulated paper asset. And here's the biggest one. The world continues to deliver moments that test faith in fiat currency. I mean, if we look back throughout time, there's been over 4,000 fiat currencies that have gone bankrupt, and it simply doesn't work. It's archaic. It's disrespectful, honestly. And you just look at quantitative easing, the bailouts, the paper currency expiration, like in India, where they just outlawed certain denominations of the currency. There's hyperinflation. You see it all in Argentina, these trade wars, your currency wars, countries trying to devaluate their currency. You look at trade war. What's a trade war? To you and me, the average folks, it's a tax. It's nothing more or less than a tax. So you look at Cyprus bank confiscation, the devaluation of the yuan, the collapse in Venezuela, the history of fiat currencies. It just makes sense that we, the people, have the ability to own, maintain, and control our own money. And it's long overdue. But my fear is there's not enough motivated people that are going to make the change. It could be the greatest change in history, bar none. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm doing our part, Nicole and I, of walking the walk and preaching the preach, because this is what we believe in. And it's proven over the last decade to be right. Cross-border transactions growing at 100% per year. Like I told you, some major banks, one in particular, approached me. These are all major central banks that are getting into the crypto space. So all good news. We look around the world and we look at applying the Bitcoin, because let's be honest, governments are terrible stewards of their own money, or what I should say, our money. They take huge and very crazy risks with our money, because we, the taxpayers, always bail them out. But who bails you out? You need to think a little more proactive and think about, I'm tired of bailing everybody else out for these elected officials around the world that flat out are just greedy. They don't have the best interest of you and I and we, the people, in mind. And I take that personally. So Bitcoin's right in line with my thinking. I want assets that I own, maintain, and control. End of story. Cryptocurrency, even though it's a replacement for higher fee process like Visa and MasterCard, because Visa, MasterCards, depending upon the size of your company, you might get as low as 0.5% if you're Amazon or something like that. But for a regular merchant, small, time business owner, you're going to get hit with a credit card processing fee of anywhere from 3 to 7%. Now, these merchant processing companies they're vicious in their own right. There's so many rules on what you can or can't do, and it can put you in harm's way. These credit card reporting, let's say somebody in a far off country buys one of your products, and now all of a sudden he cancels, he wants his money back, and there's a dispute. You sent the product, he said it didn't, it comes down, and then there's fraud. And fraud's a huge, one of the fastest growing industries in the world, fraud. So I do nothing wrong. I sell my products. I accept credit card. But the guy on the other end, he's using a fake credit card. That goes against me as well. I can only have so many fraudulent missteps, if you will, according to the bank. Even though I'm not the one committing the fraud, it affects my business. So they can shut you down because of fraudulent accounts. They can lower your limits. They can negatively affect your business and your personal credit. Oh, and by the way, some of these merchant credit cards, and they're the banks, they're the central banks, the same damn people. They have things like they control you, and they only allow you to, for example, let's say I sold $100,000 or produced $100,000 worth of revenue over the weekend. And the bank can come back and say, oh my gosh, what are you doing? It must be fraudulent for you to generate that kind of revenue in a weekend. So they'll put a hold on your account or freeze your account until you can prove that you're doing good business, that it's not fraudulent. And to protect the bank even further, there's little fine print, if you will, that some that I read, they hold your money, and for lack of better words, in an escrow. Think of it this way. Let's say I produced the $1 million or $100,000 over the weekend. They would hold 33% of that money for an undisclosed period of time, and I couldn't have access to my own money. It's what they call seasoning. It covers their loss for any potential fraudulent activity. So they hold your money that you don't have access to for an unlimited period of time, which is total nonsense. So Bitcoin really eliminates all of this nonsense from these banks. Banks, on average, the average person last year that uses a tier one bank paid about, what was it, $63,000 in fees over their life. Meaning, from the time you open up a bank account till the time you die, you paid upwards of $63,000 in fees, processing, ATM, whatever it is, 63,000. And it gets even worse. Now, if you go to the stock exchange, you hire one of these high priced brokers that makes money whether you make money or not. On an average portfolio, the average person that has a stock advisor or a broker paid $167,000 in fees. Think about that. So the two major ways that you invest and or move or do daily transactional banking or credit, over the lifetime, you're going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $225,000 in fees, commissions, late, transaction, whatever it is. So I'm all for this change. Now, there is a difference between a credit card and a debit card. I get that. But these fees that are excessive, this limiting your access to your own money, look around the world, banks close their doors and say no transactions today. Or they'll open up the ATM and say, here, we'll give you 30 euro a day, but that's the max you can take out. That's crazy. It's your money. So at the end of the day, you look at the big picture. Bitcoin solves a lot of problems, saves a lot of money, saves a lot of time. And now you're starting to see countries buy Bitcoin for foreign reserves. So it's begun. The ability to scale and lower transaction fees through SegWit and other different platforms is changing the world. So it's growing. Bitcoin as a payment system, scaling solutions. We see the problems, and that was the initial white papers on Bitcoin. Now, we have this product, and we have a lot of other cryptocurrencies and altcoins that are solving this problem, you're starting to see some forks and some improvements and some different technology being applied to the original thought and idea of changing banking, making banking real with a real tangible asset that's not manipulated or controlled. And to me, that's freedom. So there it is. Cryptocurrency is the future. And this is just a quick real scale. It's probably a year old, and the numbers are probably higher now than what they were. And you can apply this chart to the many countries here in the next several years that are going to face the same problem, that people are going to get stuck in the same situations as you're seeing Venezuela right now. We just left Aruba, which was 17 miles north of Venezuela. We were right there. These unethical leaderships, these elected governments simply don't have the best interests of the people at mind. And then they impose these capital controls because they don't want the money to leave the country. And they're trying to mitigate loss. And the way that they do that is they just freeze things. Your assets are frozen, or they give you a stipend like they did in Europe where you got 30 euros a day. Well, they just flat cut off Venezuela. That's why you can see here 12,279% increase in volume in Venezuela. And I'm assuming that equates to multiple new accounts, more and more people getting on board. Because here's what's happening. The people in Venezuela, They experienced enough pain to make the change. The rest of the people in the world that aren't involved, have no exposure whatsoever to cryptocurrency, unfortunately, and I hate to be brutally honest, but you haven't experienced enough pain. When you lose enough money, or if you get caught in a situation like Venezuela or a stock market crash that's looming, then you're going to say to yourself, my gosh, I wish I would have had $1,000 in Bitcoin or 10,000 or 100, whatever it is, because you would have access to that. You'd be able to go buy groceries with that. You'd be able to, buy airline tickets and go move to wherever or go stay with family or whatever. But if you have no access to any of your capital, any of your money, you ain't going anywhere. So that's the freedom we talk about. And it just proves it right here. And when you add all this up, we're outperforming any other investment vehicle that I know of. And you own, maintain, and control it. Now, there's a downside to everything. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say miraculously the governments of the world find a way to pay off the $300 trillion in debt that they have amassed over the last 15 years or so, which mathematically is impossible. But let's say that I'm wrong and everything's just peachy good. Every day is Christmas and the world's just a great place, and we've solved all of our financial problems and archaic financial systems, and I'm wrong. What happens to you? What does that mean to you? It means I was wrong. You still own, maintain, and control every asset. You're not controlled or dictated by anything that may or may not happen in that fiat world. So there's no harm, there's no foul. I'm saying it would be prudent to diversify. Well, I don't know your means, I don't know your abilities or what kind of money you make or have, but I would take 10 or 20% of your net worth and I would get into real property assets, and I'd do it sooner than later. Fair warning. And that's all I'll say with that. We'll keep this, end it in a light note. If you aren't on your Atlas Forge subscription, please do so. We're going to do these teachings and trainings and education for the foreseeable future. So that's what we do. It's about $1 a day. Very inexpensive. It's dinner with your wife. Go ahead, get a yearly subscription, plug in, start learning how to diversify, how to make money in a real honest way that limits what I believe could be your ability to control your own money. You really need to diversify in this day and age. So tune in, be a subscriber, and we will talk to you shortly. Thanks, guys.